It's now my pleasure to introduce Andrew Potts, who's the executive director of the U.S. Committee of ICOMOS. Mr. Potts is an internationally prominent lawyer and specialist in the preservation tax law and financing of preservation. He has been the executive director of ICOMOS for only a little less than a year, heading an organization that is celebrating, like ICOMOS itself, its 50th anniversary this year. Alex.
Well, thank you, David. Maybe first, how about a round of applause for that tour de force from Professor Brownlee? My official job is to welcome you on behalf of US ICOMOS, but I fear my main accomplishment will be to level down the quantum of erudition in the room. So you'll have to just bear with a switch in tone. As David said, my name is Andrew Potts, and I'm the executive director of a thing with a sort of unprepossessing acronym of a name, US ICOMOS. We are the United States National Committee of an international NGO called ICOMOS, the International Council on Monuments and Sites. And ICOMOS was founded, as David said, 50 years ago. It came out of this extraordinary momentum, mobilization of heritage experts around the world with the goal of rebuilding after World War II in Japan and in Germany and everywhere that heritage was destroyed. And by the 1960s, there was a desire for a permanent way to coordinate international heritage knowledge exchange, and thus ICOMOS was born, as was US ICOMOS. We were both founded in 1965. In the 1970s, then, came along the World Heritage Convention. And at that time, ICOMOS obtained the job that, for which it is perhaps best known, which is official advisor to UNESCO and to the World Heritage Committee on matters of cultural heritage. And so often if you hear about ICOMOS, it's in the context of bids for inscription of sites onto the World Heritage List. We at the United States Committee of ICOMOS have a mission that mirrors that origin story of ICOMOS. One of the main things we do is promote international cultural heritage knowledge exchange among heritage professionals. So through a network of 27 committees that touch on all aspects of heritage practice and craft and science, we promote exchange of ideas. We survey best practices in new science around the world, and we stream that into the US domestic historic preservation discussion. And we also try to shine a light on the best work being done in the US so our heritage colleagues around the world are aware of the innovations that the US is producing. But we also serve as a champion for the World Heritage Program in the United States, both in supporting the bids for inscription and nomination of US sites, also looking at the state of conservation of existing US sites, and more generally in promoting what we call the spirit of World Heritage, promoting an ethic of World Heritage among Americans. And so I think you can well imagine that for an organization like ours, your work here in Philadelphia is truly inspiring. If we had 6 more Philadelphias, we would be the leader in the world. We would be doing work unparalleled. And so Philadelphia is a real bright spot, in my opinion, in a couple ways. A lot of cities have an interest in globalization and globalism, although a few of them, I think, are as well organized and as sophisticated as Philadelphia's. But what is particularly insightful about the effort in Philadelphia is this recognition of the possibility of culture as a platform, of heritage as a bridge, as a key, as a calling card. I'll stick with platform, I think, for your greater aspirations of internationalism. And so by seizing that opportunity, by alighting on the topic of culture, I think there is a particular richness and texture to your international efforts that distinguish you among your peers across the nation. And that's why it's particularly an honor for me as the executive director of US ICOMOS to be here today. To conclude, I guess I want to give you just one thought on your topic today, which is what is the potentiality of your World Heritage aspirations. When the World Heritage Convention was ratified in 1972, 1973, it was not only about developing a list of iconic sites, but it had bigger aspirations than that. There was the idea that if you take the most iconic sites in the world and then you examine their stewardship, their maintenance, their operation, the role they played in the communities that host them, that you would find laboratories of innovation, laboratories of best practices, laboratories of new science. Where are people most likely to exposition their best work, their most important research, than in the most iconic important sites in the world? And if you networked those places together, you would have an international network for expositioning the very best ideas in what sites can be and what places can be. And that idea of World Heritage Sites as laboratories of innovation in how to make the best places in the world is really never more important than it is today. Just last Friday, the UN General Assembly adopted new 15-year development goals for the globe called the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is not a culture group, this is not a heritage group, this is the World Bank, this is the UN Development Agency, this is the UN General Assembly. And those SDGs acknowledge for the first time ever at that level that heritage has a key role in making safe, resilient, sustainable, and livable cities. That's from the new 15-year Global Development Goals, the SDGs. So the idea behind that is not just about tourism, let me say. Tourism is maybe the most commonly thought of attribute of World Heritage status, and there's science behind that. Visitorship increases with World Heritage status. The daily spend of those visitors is higher than other visitors. There's a lot of science behind the correlation between World Heritage status and tourism. But that's not what was motivating the UN General Assembly. Rather, much bigger ideas about the role that heritage plays in the success of cities. Heritage is the embodiment of memory, which is a crucible of creativity, which is a driver of 21st century economies. Heritage is a source of resilience. It's a toolkit of ideas for adaptation in the face of climate change and disaster mitigation. Heritage is a source of livability and cohesion in cities when cities are being torn apart. There are a variety of really important roles assigned to heritage in the success of 21st century cities in the thinking of the world's development officials. So if heritage is thought globally to be able to play those roles, and if you have some of the most important and iconic heritage in the world, then I think it's safe to presume that you, Philadelphia, are in a position to produce some of the most important and innovative and consequential ideas about the success of 21st century cities in terms of sustainability, resilience, livability, cohesion. And so my suggestion to you, my challenge to you, is that you own the idea of a beacon World Heritage City, that you explore how your heritage is a driver of creativity, of new economies, of sustainability, of resilience, and that you not only think about that amongst yourselves, but that as you implement your innovations, that you talk about it around the world and you share that with other cities and other places and other companies around the world. And I think it is in that process, in the leveraging of your heritage, and in talking about it to the rest of the world that you will realize the maximum potentiality of your World Heritage aspirations. And with that, I thank you for having me, and please keep in touch with US ICOMOS. We are thrilled by your efforts, and we hope to be hand in glove with you at every step. Thank you.